The National Electrical Code (NEC) restricts the installation of low-voltage wiring within walls to specific conditions. Article 411.10 states that low-voltage wiring must be installed in accordance with NEC Article 725 for Class 2 and Class 3 circuits. Article 411.10b specifies that low-voltage wiring must not be installed in the same raceway, cable, box, or enclosure with alternating current (AC) supply conductors. Article 411.10c indicates that low-voltage wiring must be permanently identified and may be installed in walls when enclosed in a raceway. NEC Article 210 addresses requirements for lighting circuits. Article 210.23 explains that lighting outlets in dwelling units must be supplied by a 120 volts, 15 or 20 amps circuit. Article 240.4 notes that branch circuits rated at 120 volts, 20 amps, or less must be protected by circuit breakers rated at 15 or 20 amps. Analyzing an article in Fine Homebuilding, firstly, the author's statement that "don't put lights on a 20 amp circuit" contradicts NEC 210.23a, which allows lighting outlets to be supplied by 20 amp circuits. Secondly, the author's suggestion to fish landscape lighting cable in walls violates NEC 411.10c, which requires low-voltage wiring to be permanently identified and installed in a raceway when installed in walls. Landscape lighting cable typically does not meet these requirements. In conclusion, the article in Fine Homebuilding contains errors regarding the installation of low-voltage wiring and lighting circuits. These errors could potentially mislead readers and result in code violation. It is important to rely on accurate and up-to-date information from reputable sources when making electrical decisions. To elaborate further, it is important to understand the definitions within the NEC to fully comprehend these rules. Low voltage typically refers to systems operating at 50 volts or less. Class 2 and Class 3 circuits, as mentioned in Article 725, are power-limited circuits with specific voltage and current limitations designed to minimize the risk of electric shock and fire. These limitations are crucial for ensuring safety in low-voltage installations. When the NEC states that low-voltage wiring cannot share the same space as AC supply conductors, it is preventing the potential for dangerous interactions. AC supply conductors carry higher voltages and currents, and if low-voltage wiring were to come into contact with them due to insulation failure or other issues, it could create a shock hazard or even a fire. This separation requirement is a fundamental safety measure. The requirement for permanent identification of low-voltage wiring is also vital. This ensures that electricians and other qualified personnel can easily distinguish between low-voltage and high-voltage wiring, which is particularly important when performing maintenance or troubleshooting. Proper identification helps prevent accidental contact with high-voltage conductors. Enclosing low-voltage wiring in a raceway when it is installed in walls provides physical protection for the wiring. A raceway, such as conduit or electrical metallic tubing, safeguards the wiring from damage caused by nails, screws, or other objects that could penetrate the wall. This protection helps maintain the integrity of the wiring system and reduces the risk of electrical hazards. Regarding lighting circuits, Article 210 of the NEC provides the general requirements for branch circuits that supply lighting outlets and other equipment in dwelling units and other types of occupancies. The allowance for 15 amps or 20 amp circuits to supply lighting outlets offers flexibility in design and installation. The choice between a 15 amps and a 20 amp circuit often depends on the total load that the circuit will be serving. If the total load, which includes the lighting fixtures and any other devices connected to the circuit, exceeds 12 amps, a 20 amp circuit may be necessary to avoid overloading the circuit. Circuit breakers are essential safety devices that protect branch circuits from overcurrents. An overcurrent can occur due to a short circuit, ground fault, or overload. When an overcurrent occurs, the circuit breaker trips, interrupting the flow of electricity and preventing damage to the wiring and equipment. The requirement that branch circuits rated at 120 volts, 20 amps, or less be protected by circuit breakers rated at 15 amps or 20 amps ensures that the circuit breaker is appropriately sized for the circuit it is protecting. Now, focusing on the analysis of the Fine Homebuilding article, the assertion that one should not put lights on a 20-amp circuit is a misinterpretation of the NEC. While it is true that some circuits may be limited to 15 amps, the NEC specifically allows for 20-amp circuits to supply lighting outlets in dwelling units. This flexibility is important for accommodating various lighting designs and load requirements. The suggestion to use landscape lighting cable in walls is also problematic because landscape lighting cable is typically not designed or rated for use inside walls. Landscape lighting cable is often direct burial cable, which is designed to withstand the harsh conditions of being buried in the ground. However, it typically does not have the same fire resistance and other safety characteristics as NEC cable, which is specifically designed for interior wiring. Furthermore, landscape lighting cable usually does not meet the requirement for permanent identification and enclosure in a raceway when installed in walls. This lack of identification and protection can create confusion and increase the risk of electrical hazards. It is crucial to use the correct type of cable for the application to ensure safety and code compliance. When making electrical decisions, it is essential to rely on accurate and up-to-date information from reputable sources. The NEC is the primary source of information for electrical installations, and it is updated every 3 years to reflect changes in technology and safety practices. Other reputable sources include licensed electricians, electrical engineers, and qualified electrical inspectors. These professionals have the knowledge and experience to provide accurate guidance on electrical installations. Relying on inaccurate or outdated information can lead to code violations, safety hazards, and potentially dangerous electrical conditions. Therefore, it is always best to consult with qualified professionals and refer to the latest edition of the NEC when making electrical decisions. Consider specific examples to illustrate the points. Suppose a homeowner is installing low voltage under cabinet lighting in their kitchen. They plan to run the wiring through the wall to connect it to a power supply. To comply with the NEC, they must ensure that the low voltage wiring is installed in accordance with Article 725 for Class 2 or Class 3 circuits, is not installed in the same raceway as AC supply conductors, and is permanently identified and enclosed in the raceway. If the homeowner fails to meet these requirements, they could be creating a safety hazard and violating the NEC. Another example involves a homeowner who is installing new lighting fixtures in their living room. They decide to replace the existing 15-amp circuit breaker with a 20-amp circuit breaker to accommodate the new fixtures. However, they do not upgrade the wiring to a larger gauge to handle the increased current. This could lead to overheating of the wiring and potentially cause a fire. To avoid this, the homeowner should consult with a qualified electrician to determine the appropriate size of the circuit breaker and wiring for the new lighting fixtures. These examples highlight the importance of understanding and complying with the NEC. Electrical installations can be complex and potentially dangerous, so it is always best to seek professional guidance and ensure that all work is performed in accordance with the code. To reinforce the importance of code compliance, consider the potential consequences of code violations. Code violations can result in fines, penalties, and even legal action. In addition, they can create safety hazards that could lead to electric shock, fire, or other injuries. Insurance companies may also deny coverage for damages caused by code violations. Therefore, it is essential to take code compliance seriously and ensure that all electrical work is performed in accordance with the NEC and other applicable codes and regulations. In summary, the NEC provides comprehensive requirements for electrical installations, including low voltage wiring and lighting circuits. These requirements are designed to ensure safety and prevent electrical hazards. It is crucial to understand and comply with the NEC when performing electrical work. If you are unsure about any aspect of the code, consult with a qualified electrician or electrical inspector. Remember, electrical safety is everyone's responsibility. By following the NEC and taking appropriate precautions, you can help protect yourself, your family, and your property from electrical hazards. It is also important to note that the NEC is not the only source of information for electrical installations. Many states and local jurisdictions have their own electrical codes and regulations that may be more restrictive than the NEC. It is essential to be familiar with the applicable codes and regulations in your area before performing any electrical work. In addition to the NEC and local codes, there are also industry standards and best practices that can help ensure safe and reliable electrical installations. These standards and practices are often developed by organizations such as the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers (IEE) and the National Fire Protection Association (NFPA). Following these standards and practices can further enhance the safety and quality of your electrical work. Finally, it is important to remember that electrical work should only be performed by qualified individuals. Working with electricity can be dangerous, and it is essential to have the knowledge, skills, and experience to perform the work safely. If you are not qualified to perform electrical work, hire a licensed electrician to do the job. A licensed electrician has the training and expertise to ensure that the work is performed correctly and in accordance with the code. This will help protect you, your family, and your property from electrical hazards. In conclusion, electrical safety is a critical concern that should be taken seriously by everyone. By understanding and complying with the NEC, local codes, and industry standards, and by hiring qualified professionals to perform electrical work, you can help ensure safe and reliable electrical installations. Remember, when in doubt, consult with a qualified electrician or electrical inspector.